Hello, CM World. Welcome to Beyond the Chat, where we introduce you to some remarkable marketers. They are innovative, they are smart, they are funny. They are our guests from these CM World Chats. I am Monina Wagner. I am the community manager for the Content Marketing Institute. If you hopped on over from Twitter to join us for this live stream, welcome. Thank you so much. If you are new to CMI and to CM World, CMI's mission is to advance the practice of content marketing. So we do that with our daily blog, with our consulting work, with our events, Content Tech Summit and Content Marketing World, and of course, live streams like this. Today, I am so excited to have our guest, James Tennant, with us. We just came out of a wonderful chat about content distribution. We will have a recap up later on the blog. But he is one person we often hear needing to get the right content to the right people at the right time, and James knows all about that. James is no stranger to the CM World community. He has, because of our difference in time zones, we really don't get much time to catch up. So this is a pleasure for me to have him on the show today. So welcome, James.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks a lot for inviting me on.
Well, let's start with, you founded Converge. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what Converge is and how it came to be?
Yeah, sure. Converge is a content amplification platform for B2B businesses. So essentially we help businesses promote their content consistently and effectively to new and bigger audiences. It's a big time saver for a lot of businesses. Where it came from, it's a bit of a long story. I'll try and short it down. About 10 years ago, I moved to Canada after I finished university. I stayed there for a couple of years, and I started a career as a freelance copywriter and content marketer. And basically, over the last few years of working with lots of different businesses, I found that the biggest problem businesses had wasn't necessarily in the creation of content, but in making sure that that content was being seen by the right people. And that's essentially where the idea came from.
Now, tell us about that transition, going from content writer to the founder of your own startup. How was that?
Difficult. It's the hardest thing is getting used to the fact that you're not just with Converge. We're building a tool, so it's not just as a freelancer you sell your own time, and that's what the resource is. You have a certain amount of time in the day, and you service clients with that time. You write content with them. When I moved over to doing stuff with Converge, I found myself writing content less and less and less because you're building a SaaS product, basically a technology product. So that's been the most difficult thing, I think, is having to write less and deal with the business end of things a little bit more than I did when I was a freelancer.
So when you you became an entrepreneur, was there a moment, an aha moment, where you knew this is going to work, this is what I want to be doing?
Yeah, well, I was very cautious in the early stages. I sort of spoke to as many people as I could do once I had the idea. And it was just the level of feedback that I got from everybody, really, and it was just such positive feedback that I thought, well, why not give this a go? If I could decide not to do it and keep doing the freelance stuff, which I loved, but I did want to build a product. I did want to build a business. And I just thought, well, the feedback's great. People are telling me it's a product that they'd be interested in. So why not take the step and give it a go?
Now, you said you talked to people before making the jump. Who was someone who was really influential? Like, who did you go to try to get the advice and maybe the little bit of a push that you needed?
It was people in my immediate network, people who I'd been doing jobs for, businesses that I'd worked with for years in some cases, people that I'd met on the networking circuit in my local area who I knew were producing content. I could take ages naming them all. There was probably about 30 or 40 people in the initial stages who I'd spent quite a bit of time with, and I'm very thankful that they gave me their time to sit down and discuss what it was I was planning on building. And then over the years, it's been all the members as well. Everyone that's joined has shared a lot of feedback. This business has been built in a completely lean way. There's been no major investment into it. There was no huge capital to start it up. So it's been a learning process over the last few years from members to find out what works and what doesn't work. And the same thing went at the start as well, asking people, what do you think of this idea and how do you think this would work? And it was, the feedback was fantastic.
You mentioned networking, and I know that is a part of what Converge does, but you yourself are very active online. You see you on social media. We see, everything that you're posting. How is that? How has your perception changed of networking because of what you do? And is there a way that you prefer to network in, even during this COVID time when a lot of us are sheltering in place and are quarantined because of the pandemic? Has your view on it changed?
I don't think my view on networking's changed. I think it's still an essential part of growing a business, whether that's a technology business or you as a freelancer or self-employed. Networking is such an important part of it. The doors that have been opened to me by getting to know the right people have been massive. And one of the biggest ones is the weekly chat with you guys as well. I mean, the people I've met off the back of that is fantastic. And I would say that even though people can't meet face to face now, which is a shame because I used to love doing that. It was a great way to go out and catch up with people you hadn't seen in a while and meet new people and learn new things as well at different events. I would still say that people should be active in trying to network as often as they can, and Twitter chats are a great way of doing it. There's plenty of webinars. There are ways for people to chat in groups on Slack, WhatsApp, LinkedIn. There are ways of networking even if we can't meet face to face, and people should still be doing it for sure.
That is something that I say constantly on this show, and I say just in general, is how much I really appreciate the CM World community, because you can find them in so many places, and they're always so willing to help, and they're so supportive. And like you said, that even during this time, this really kind of unknown time, we can still rely on each other, which is really, really fantastic.
Oh yeah, definitely. And it's such a cool thing as well that every week everybody turns up and engages so much within the chat as well. It doesn't seem to me that there are too many lurkers. It seems that most people seem to get involved and answer the questions and share ideas and retweet and share. It's great, yeah.
Well, most marketers aren't shy.
No. That's a fair point.
Well, so if someone has been waiting for the right time to get into the game and they wanted to go out on their own, they wanted to start something, on their own, what's the one piece of advice that you would give them?
Validate the idea first. Talk to as many people as you possibly can that you trust, and then some people as well that you think are just outside of your network or on the fringes of your network that you think might be a bit more honest with you as well, because with the best will in the world, talking to your best mates about an idea, they're probably going to say, it's a great idea, go for it. But the important thing is to really test and validate the idea and find out if your idea is something people are willing to pay for in the numbers that you need them to pay for it to actually become a business and not just become something that is hard work every week without much reward. So validation is key in the early stages.
So what's interesting to me is, and it always is that here you are running a very successful business, and you are, like I said, online. We see you on social all the time. You are networking, you are writing, you're doing all of these things. How are you managing your time? How do you feel like you can keep your productivity at such a high level, yet keep it all quality?
I think just trying to be as organized as possible. In the early stages, I was really bad at this. I would spend way too much time working during the week, and I wouldn't find myself with any time at the weekend to relax. And it's very easy, I think, in the early stages to get caught up with working too much. I think finding a balance is the right thing. And one of the keys to finding a balance is just to get more organized. I would be way too ad hoc with social media activity or writing content now, which is terrible because it's one of the things I tell people not to do, but you're always the one who doesn't take your own advice. And after a year or so of doing that, I realized that was completely unsustainable. So I just became far more organized and made sure that my weeks were planned out ahead and that I knew exactly what I was doing. And then, stick to it. It's one thing to say you're going to do something. It's quite another thing to commit to that thing regularly. But consistency and commitment really does generate results. And when you start to see those results, it's far easier to stay consistent and committed to your plan.
I can't believe that you can plan out weeks ahead. I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow. I'm very bad at that.
Yeah, I mean, I say it's a plan that changes. I sort of plan what I can think that I need to do for the week, but inevitably things crop up during the week that you just didn't plan for, that you have to make time for. But for the most part, I've got a good idea of what it is I'm trying to achieve by the end of the week.
So what does your downtime look like then?
I'd stop, well, apart from on Tuesdays, I stop every single day at 5 o'clock. And I make sure that I take time to read a book. I like to draw. I really love art. I've been doing that for years and years. So anything that takes my mind completely off work. It used to be a lot of outdoor activities and travel, but for obvious reasons, that's not possible now. Sports as well, but again, that's not really possible. So yeah, anything that takes my mind completely off work, because I find it more often than not quite difficult to switch off.
Well, one of the reasons why we started Beyond the Chat is because we were talking about it. The hour when you're on a Twitter chat, it just goes, it flies by. And we have just enough time to answer about 7 questions. So with Beyond the Chat, we asked the final question, and we call this question 8. So this is a question that James does not know I'm going to ask. So we will go with, if you could sit down with anyone, have dinner with anyone, but you mentioned going to sports. So let's make it an athlete, any athlete. Who would it be and why?
That's a tricky one. I'm a big football fan, or soccer fan, I guess you would call it. And there was a player who played for the team I support, Southampton, for his entire career, which is loyalty you don't tend to see in English football anyway. Matt Letizia, and he was my hero when I was growing up. So 100% I would go catch up with that guy, definitely.
I was thinking about this as I was asking you, and I'm like, I love sports, and I'm like, who would it be for me? And I think without a doubt for me, it would be LeBron James, because not just his athleticism, but just his entrepreneurship, his philanthropy. I just feel like all around, I just want to pick his brain. I just want to be like, how do you do that? What's the secret?
Yeah, I guess his diary and his schedule would be pretty mind blowing as well, considering he's a high performance athlete who also does things outside of just playing basketball.
Right. Well, James, thank you again for sitting down with us, and thank you for being on the Twitter chat. As I mentioned earlier, if you missed James's Twitter chat on content distribution, we will have a recap up later this week on this Content Marketing World blog. And James, where can people find you online?
They can find me on Twitter at James Converge, or they can find me on LinkedIn as well. Just search for James Tennant. I'll probably pop up there as well.
And we will put all of that information in our show notes. James, this was wonderful. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you all for watching. Until next week, stay safe and take care of one another.
Cheers. Thanks.